Hello, beautiful soul. My name is Yulia, and I'm the voice of the podcast Love to Heal. This podcast outlines my journey from atheism to Judaism, exploring spirituality from diverse perspectives. It is my hope that my journey will inspire others to embark on their own adventure of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Welcome to the last episode of Season 6. I will be taking a little break to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and also to focus on writing my book. But today I wanted to talk about the basics of Shabbat. As you may know, I come from a secular background, and I only started keeping Sabbath just a couple years ago. It all started simply with lighting candles. This was the very first mitzvah that my husband and I decided we could actually observe as we were transitioning from secular to becoming observant. Our rabbi told us that as long as we lit candles every Friday night, we were taking a big step in the right direction on our spiritual path. Interestingly enough, we already had a pretty candle holder that my mother-in-law gave to us many years ago when we first got married. In fact, that candle holder had been a gift from our Rebbitzins' parents to my in-laws when they first immigrated to the United States and the Jewish community helped them settle in. We started lighting the candles, not always doing it exactly the right way or at the right time, for that matter. Candles should be lit 18 minutes before sunset. So at first it was difficult to abide by this rule because we always had something going on Friday nights. We would go out, hang out with friends, go to concerts, you name it. But the more we did it, of course, the better we got at it. And little by little, we started to plan around Shabbat and not the other way around. In fact, I even put Shabbat as a standing event in our calendars so that we would get in the habit of not planning anything on Friday nights. At first, we lit candles just with our family, but with time, as we became more confident, we started hosting Shabbat dinners, which was actually really fun. We loved it. And then I understood, too, that Shabbat, it's a holiday. It's a very special, holy day. So I began to set up the table with this idea in mind. Actually, every time that I attended Tot Shabbat with my kids, it's a Saturday kids program at our synagogue, I heard the children's song that called Shabbat a queen. It's true, Shabbat is personified as a queen and is often portrayed as a bride. To welcome such a guest into your house, you must prepare accordingly. Thankfully, somehow I already had a white tablecloth with Jewish symbols on it, so I started using that, as well as the special occasion dishes and silverware. And so each Shabbat was becoming more and more festive. Of course, I knew I still had tons to learn, that I was just scratching the surface. But at least we were starting to commemorate Shabbat in the way that we were supposed to. One day, our rabbi invited us to his house for Shabbat, and it was there that I learned the correct way to light candles. First off, I learned that this mitzvah is specifically designated for women. It is the woman that ushers in the holy day by bringing light and warmth into the home, which actually symbolizes the creation of the first light and a rectification for Eve's sin of bringing death into the world. The candle lighting also represents the inherent spiritual role of women in bringing divine light into the physical realm and creating a peaceful, unified home atmosphere for Shabbat. The first woman, by the way, to light Shabbat candles was our matriarch, Sarah. Her candles would miraculously burn throughout the week until the following Shabbat. It is custom to light 2 candles because one symbolizes the commandment to remember the Sabbath and the other to observe it. In our Chabad community, another explanation for lighting 2 candles is that a married woman lights one for herself and one for her husband. After that, each woman or girl can light her own candle if she's single, or light 2 if she's married. Some women choose to light a candle for each child as well. And the candles should remain lit until they burn down naturally. There were a couple of times at the beginning when my kids wanted to blow them out as if it was a birthday or something, but I made sure to explain to them not to touch the candles, just let them burn down by themselves. Okay, let's now talk drinks. Wine for adults and grape juice for kids. Kiddush on Shabbat is a ritual of reciting blessings over wine or grape juice to sanctify the Jewish day of rest, marking it as holy and separate from the mundane. It's performed at the start of the Friday evening meal, and also we do it again on Shabbat day before the lunch meal, so also on Saturday afternoon. This mitzvah is the responsibility of the head of the household, typically the father or husband. We have been encouraging our son to say this prayer too, because it's great practice for his future responsibility, and it makes him feel very important, as does letting our daughter light her own candle. So to make kiddush, one needs a special kiddush cup and kosher wine or grape juice. My son has been bringing cute little kiddush cups from Hebrew school for the past several years, so that's what we use, but I do plan to invest in something more special, a real kiddush cup. Typically, they're made out of silver. So probably for the holidays, for Hanukkah maybe this year, I would like to get one for our family, for my husband, and maybe for my son too. After the Shabbat candles are lit, the man fills the cup to the brim and stands. My son, too, has been watching our rabbi fill his cup to the brim, and sometimes it even overflows. So he does exactly the same. It is believed that an overflowing cup symbolizes the abundance of blessings in our lives. So we let our son overflow his cup, and of course, the juice spills sometimes on the tablecloth. Mostly if he keeps it over his plate, then just over the plate. But actually, it's a really beautiful symbolic gesture that makes you appreciate all the blessings in your life and welcomes more abundant blessings into your life. The man holds the cup in one hand and recites the Kiddush prayers, which sanctify the day. He drinks a portion of the wine or juice and then pours it for others to drink before the meal. After this ritual comes the mitzvah of netilat yadayim, which is the ritual of washing your hands. This is done with a special hand washing cup with 2 handles. That is also very symbolic. You would think it's enough to just wash your hands under running water, right? But that is not the case. Traditionally, Jews are required to wash their hands and say a blessing before eating any meal that includes bread or matzah. This ritual has various customs regarding how the water should be poured. The Hasidic custom, which is our costume because Chabad is a part of the Hasidic tradition. Our tradition is to pour the water 3 times on each hand. Important to note here that we use the non-dominant hand to pour first, which can feel unnatural or awkward, but that's good because this highlights the notion that the washing is done for ritual purposes rather than pragmatic purposes. It's all about mindfulness at the end of the day. It's all about keeping God in our thoughts every step of the way. And the tradition is unrelated completely to personal hygiene. So if a person has clean hands, he's still required to perform this ritual. Another explanation for using a cup, specifically with two handles, is to prevent a newly purified hand from touching an unpurified hand, or even a handle that has been touched by the unpurified hand. So when you have those two handles, it really pretty much eliminates the possibility of contamination between hands. After the hand washing is done and the blessing is said, there's a special blessing for after you wash your hands, it is customary not to speak. Not to speak until you recite the blessing for bread and take a part of that bread for yourself. This rule I learned the hard way. I was at our rabbi's house for Sukkot one year. All the guests washed their hands and headed back to the table. I did the same. I washed my hands, I sat down, and I noticed that everyone was very quiet for some reason. So I took it upon myself to break the ice, and I started asking the rabbi a bunch of questions, to which he did not reply. It was almost as if he was ignoring me. And I was really confused. But as soon as we said the hamotzi, the prayer over the bread, and the rabbi cut into the challah and we all took a piece, he then started talking and he explained that you're supposed to be silent between these mitzvahs, right? Between hand washing and challah cutting. I was so embarrassed, but now I know. And I will never make that mistake again. Next, I would like to talk a little bit about challah. I used to think that one loaf was enough, that it didn't matter whether it was sliced or not, if I needed a challah cover. Well, soon I learned that for challah on Shabbat, there were very specific traditional instructions too. First, we must have 2 loaves of challah that are covered with a special cover, and then the blessing must be made on 2 whole uncut loaves. Why 2 and why the cover? Well, 2 challahs are placed on the table to commemorate the double portion of manna that the Israelites received in the desert each Friday to sustain them through the Sabbath. This symbolic practice serves as a reminder of God's miraculous provision and the importance of resting from labor on the holy day. The loaves are covered because this represents the layer of dew that covered the manna in the desert. And the reason that we use whole loaves of challah is because Shabbat is the day that brought wholeness and completion to creation. And so we honor it by blessing on complete loaves. Once I understood the historical and traditional importance of this practice, I went ahead and bought a challah cover, and I started buying 2 uncut loaves. To ensure that I have challah that I need for Shabbat, I actually now go to a bakery every Friday morning, and I pick out the fresh loaves. Unlike before, when I used to rush around and go from store to store in search of challah right before Shabbat, oftentimes to find that at the end of the day, there was either no challah left or only the sliced kind. So now I make sure that I have the correct amount and the correct type of challah every Friday evening. Because now Shabbat is so much more important for our family, and we do what we can to prepare for it ahead of time. Now, with these 4 mitzvahs that I mentioned, candles, kiddush, hand washing, and challah, you can start observing Shabbat. Of course, we still have a long way to go, personally, in my family, to commemorate Shabbat like we really should, the way God wants us to, because we still need to learn to abstain completely from electronics, from never doing any work, from not carrying anything in or out of the house, learning all the proper prayers by heart and their exact timing, And there's a lot more. However, as our rabbi explained to us, for a secular Jew to start observing any mitzvah is so significant that any amount of observance counts and is highly appreciated. A secular Jew who becomes observant is a phenomenon known as baal teshuvah, which means master of return. And it is considered significant for both the individual and the Jewish community. While for the individual, the journey is a profound spiritual transformation that often involves intellectual, emotional, and social challenges, for the community, it represents a powerful reaffirmation of Jewish continuity and tradition. So believe me, any mitzvah counts. If you're like me and just starting out, do what you can. Start small. Don't beat yourself up for not doing everything perfectly. If the intention is there, that's what counts. And before you know it, every mitzvah will be bringing you closer and closer to God, and you will be doing it better and better each time. I will leave you today with the lyrics of the song The Shabbat Queen by Chaim Nachman Bialik from 1903. Very old song. It was translated from Hebrew to English. So enjoy it, and until next time, until next season. Since it's almost Rosh Hashanah, I also wish you Lashana Tova. The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come, gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, with angels, a cohort of peace and of rest. Draw nigh, O Queen, and here abide. Draw nigh, O Sabbath bride. Peace also to you, ye angels of peace. We've welcomed the Sabbath with song and with prayer, and home we return, our heart's gladness to share. The table is set and the candles are lit, the tiniest corner for Sabbath made fit. O day of blessing, day of rest, sweet day of peace, be ever blessed. Bring ye also peace, ye angels of peace.